There are many amazing places in the world. Some are the work of man, others are creations of nature. Today we will just look at 5 such places that fascinate with their uniqueness. Sable Island, or a saber, but it has nothing to do with a saber, except that it only looks like a saber in shape. Sable in French means sand, so the correct name is an island of sand. The size of the island is small. It is a 42-kilometer sandbar, and the maximum width is only 1.5 kilometers. It is difficult for tourists to get to the island. Moreover, in order to visit the island, you need to obtain permission from the Canadian authorities. It is this country that owns the island territorially. Papers giving the right to set foot on the island are not issued to everyone. Only rescuers and scientists live on the island, who have proven that their stay on this land will not harm the local flora and fauna. The island has gained worldwide fame thanks to its insidiousness. Perhaps there is no sailor in the world who has not heard about the sad glory of this island. About 500 ships were shipwrecked off its shores. The reason is that it is here that 2 currents meet, the warm Gulf Stream and the cold Labrador Current that ruined the Titanic. The waves of the ocean washed up a huge crescent-shaped sandy spit, the top of which, protruding above the water surface, formed an island. Constant fogs, sandbanks, regularly changing outlines of the island and its movement across the ocean make this place very dangerous. Waves wash away the sand from the western part of the island and wash it onto the eastern one, thus ensuring the drift of this piece of land across the vast expanses of the Atlantic. Another name for this island is a living island. It moves eastward at a speed of about 220 meters per year and goes into the deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Many call this place not just mysterious, but the most cursed. In 1583, the island was recorded on the map as a cemetery of lost ships. The first settlement was organized here in a rather unusual way in 1598. 48 criminals and 50 innocent sheep were landed on the island with the words, "Make yourself at home." They were forgotten about for a long 22 years. In 1605 the convicts were hastily remembered. They were hastily pardoned and taken away by 12 surviving people who became so wild that perhaps a couple of sheep were among the pardoned. By the way, 5 savages soon asked to return. This event was the beginning of the French colony on this island, and the former convicts were recognized as free settlers, provided with everything necessary and taken back to the island. Since 1800, the island has been guarded, now mainly so that no one disturbs the peace of 300 unique wild horses, whose ancestors were brought here in 1738, and were not allowed before because there are so many treasure ships lying around that it always pulled and pulls treasure hunters, adventurers, and other marauders. The island has been demonstrating its intolerance towards uninvited guests for many centuries. It has become a mass grave in which members of the Vikings and galleons of the Spaniards, ships of the British and whalers found their rest. Today, 2 sailors work on the island, who send light and radio signals to passing ships that they are near the Atlantic ship cemeteries. About 30 people live on the island. These are primarily those who ensure the uninterrupted operation of lighthouses, as well as scientists, meteorologists, and biologists. Lalibela is another amazing place. Lalibela is a small city founded in the 12th century AD, in the middle of the Lasta mountain range in central Ethiopia. At the beginning it was called Roho, and later it was named after the most significant emperor of the Zagwe dynasty, King Lalibela. According to legend, Emperor Lalibela intended to create a second Jerusalem on Ethiopian soil when he learned that Salah ad-Din had conquered Jerusalem from the Crusaders and that it was lost for Christians. The city was conceived as a project of the Holy Land, where there is a place of Calvary, the Mount of Olives, Jordan, there is a place of baptism. Everything was conceived as a landscape spatial icon. A new Jerusalem was carved out of the rocky mountain. 16 monolithic temples were cut entirely in the rock from top to bottom with an interior and a large interior space inside one huge rock. At present, most of the architectural monuments of medieval Ethiopia have been preserved in Lalibela. That is why this city is recognized by the UNESCO Association as the 8th wonder of the world and a symbol of the Christian religion, which is so widespread in this country. The main attraction of Lalibela is a complex of churches that were built right inside the rocks. This work took 23 years. According to local legends, Prior to his accession to the throne, Emperor Lalibela was in Jerusalem, where he was ascended to heaven, saw heavenly temples and was given the task of creating copies of them. Monolithic temples were cut down entirely in the rock from top to bottom, and then the inner space with halls and columns was cut down in this solid block. Amazing and challenging work. Legends say that in order to achieve the impossible, angels helped with the construction of churches. During the day, people worked on the temples, and at night, angels. Today, 11 monolithic churches are available for inspection by tourists, which are grouped into two main groups. One depicts earthly Jerusalem, and the other is heavenly. A trench directly between them represents the Jordan River, and there is also a small baptismal pool outside the church. Through a narrow tunnel cut in the rock from one church to another, you can go without rising to the surface. The work of Ethiopian stonemasons is admirable, especially considering that they had no room for error, because it would be impossible to attach an incorrectly cut piece of rock back. In addition, they had to take into account the structure of the stone in order to prevent the structure from cracking in the most unexpected places. For this, an accurate calculation and a clear vision by each of the numerous masons of the entire structure as a whole was needed even before the start of all work. Mount Roraima in Venezuela is an amazing, mysterious, almost fantastic place located in the southeast of Venezuela. This is where Brazil and Venezuela meet. Due to its unusual shape, this mountain was inaccessible to researchers for a long time, and its very existence was questioned. Mount Roraima has an absolute height of 2,810 meters, and the area of /U200B/U200B plateau on its top is about 30 square kilometers. It is composed of hard sandstone and is part of an ancient plateau with a geological age of about 2 billion years. Today, this plateau is destroyed, and Mount Roraima and several other similar mountains are its surviving parts. On the flat top of the mountain there are many swamps of rivers and small lakes. The walls are vertical. You can climb up only along a single narrow ledge on the north side. In the early 20th century, the plateau's isolation raised the hope that extinct species must still exist there, the report of the first expedition to the site prompting Arthur Conan Doyle to write The Lost World in 1912. One of the first travelers to reach Mount Roraima in 1838 was the German scientist Robert Schomburg, and the first Europeans to reach the top of the mountain were the botanist Everard M. Tern and Harry Perkins. This happened in December 1884. For botanists, the mountain has become a real treasure. In the isolated territory of the mountain there are many unique plants and animals that have been without any contact with the outside world for a long time, and 2 plant species are found only on Mount Roraima and do not grow anywhere else in the world. This tropical region is overcast and Mount Roraima is often shrouded in thick clouds of fog. Streams and waterfalls flowing down its steep slopes complete the mysterious image of this place. Another fantastic place is Socotra Island. Socotra and 3 other islands have been isolated from Africa for the past 7 million years. This piece of land is inhabited by extremely rare plants and animals, more than a third of which cannot be found anywhere else on Earth. A unique animal and plant world has formed on the local islands, for which they are often called the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean. 37% of the 825 plant species, 95% of the terrestrial mollusks, 90% of the reptiles and 70% of the birds found here are found nowhere else in the world. The symbol of the archipelago is the endemic dragon tree. It got its name because of the red resin secreted from the damaged areas of the bark, which has healing properties, and which in ancient times was associated with dragon's blood. Plants have been preserved due to isolation, and some species are more than 20 million years old. If we imagine such a situation that a person suddenly wakes up on this island without knowing how he ended up there, looks around, then he will probably decide that he is on some other planet or has fallen into a prehistoric era. Amazing landscapes and never-before-seen vegetation. The climate is very harsh, hot and dry, but surprisingly the vegetation feels great and flourishes. The archipelago is located 350 kilometers from Yemen. Large sandy beaches stretch over limestone plateaus. The island is full of caves, some go up to 7 kilometers in length. Even on the neighboring islands, the landscape will be completely different from Socotra. Nowhere else in the world can you find such a fabulous beach as on this piece of land. Strange trees, rare birds and unique plants give this place a certain charm that is incomparable and absolutely unearthly. The next amazing place is the Wall of Dinosaurs. This is a unique archaeological monument as high as a 30-story building. Its length is more than a kilometer, and its age is 68 million years. It was then in the second half of the Cretaceous period that the wall was the bottom of a freshwater lake and dinosaurs came here to quench their thirst and find something to profit from food. But as a result of the displacement of the tectonic layer, the bottom rose and stood almost vertically. Now the wall is tilted at a 70-degree angle. The researchers counted 5,000 footprints on the wall that could have left 294 species of different dinosaurs. This amazing place was discovered quite by accident, when in 1994 one of the workers of a cement plant operating near Sucre just decided to take a walk and found a wall completely trampled by dinosaurs. On a sheer cliff, traces of long-extinct giants were clearly visible. As paleontologists say, such a number of giant paw prints in one place in the world is not found anywhere else. Later, not far from the famous Wall of Dinosaurs, a museum was opened where you can see in full size those who left their mark, of course, not real giants, but their models. However, children and adults alike are delighted to visit this Cretaceous park. It is especially informative to study the history of ancient times in the immediate vicinity of the evidence of the presence of prehistoric creatures on Earth. Standing next to the wall, you really understand how short a person's life is in the history of the planet. No more than 100 years given to us is like an instant on a scale of millions of years. However, each of us is able to leave his mark, which will then be looked at by descendants. Well, that's all for today. Thank you all for watching. If it was interesting, support the video with likes. Thank you for subscribing, and take a look at what else we have prepared for you.